Very good morning, everyone. How are you all? Everyone fine? Super. Last class we started the introduction of Ind AS. We have understood that to which company Ind AS is applicable. If you have gone through the questions or once again the content, any doubt, whatever you have in your mind, you can ask me. So what you will do that if you have done the revision, correct now. Normally I always say that once we have done 3 hours class, you should revise 1 hour in your what, in your home or pg or hostel wherever you are living, correct now, wherever you are staying, revise for 1 hour. That is must. Minimum I am saying 1 hour. Minimum 1 hour revision is required. If you don't revise 1 hour every day, whatever I have done in the class, that much only I am saying. So what will happen, the doubt which should come right now will come after the class. After the class means after the batch, and that time I will not be available with you, even though I am available virtually, but that connection will not come na. Understood? So everyone, whoever is taking class, whatever, whether face to face, live or recorded, if you are doing revision 1 hour of that 3 hour class, so you will get confidence. So in that 1 hour, what you should do, that I will say in later classes, correct? But 1 hour minimum revision is required. We will start with very basic chapter. Basic chapter means what? Basic chapter does not mean it is not important chapter from exam point of view. All chapters are important if the question is coming from that chapter in exam, and we don't know from which chapter question will come in exam. Are you getting? Correct? Means in exam, suppose whatever chapter we right now we are taking, Ind AS 37 will take. From that, if 10 marks question will come, so that become very important. If no question will come, then it is not important. But we can't say right now whether question will come or question will not come for that particular topic. So all, from my point of view, all chapters are important from exam point of view. Correct? So there is no such chapter which is not important or which is important from exam point of view. There are some chapter from which always a mandatory question will come. So whenever we'll take that chapter, I'll just inform you this chapter always one mandatory question will come. Correct? And there are some chapter from which question may or may not come. May or may not come. So I will be starting with some basic Ind AS which you have already done in your CA Inter. For example, you have understood that chapter which I have opened is Ind AS 37 provision, contingent liabilities and contingent asset. Once I say this title means the name of the Ind AS, correct, title of the Ind AS. So which AS will come in your mind? AS 29, and the same title AS 29 also provision, contingent liabilities and contingent asset. And I hope everyone have done AS 29 and everyone have also understood AS 29. Anyone who have not understood AS 29, raise your hand. Anyone who have not done AS 29? Anyone who have understood AS 29 means you are not raising in hand in anything. You have done, I am asking, you are not raising hand. You have understood, you are not raising hand. Whether you have forgotten AS 29, in that also you are. But as a student, we don't know what is going in our life. What exactly is going in our life, we also don't know. Yes or no? Correct. So, ठीक है. So AS 29 and Ind AS 37, AS 29 and Ind AS 37 is 95% same. Only 5% difference is there. Means if you know AS 29, you know Ind AS 37. It means, can I say, if you have done CA Inter and you are coming to CA Final, I can only teach the difference point, you will automatically understand. But I know what you have done in CA Inter. You also know what you have done in CA Inter. Correct? That assumption will not prevail. With that assumption, I can't take that you know AS 29. It means I will teach from the beginning. So the title of the name is, the title of Ind AS is what? Provision, contingent liabilities and contingent asset. ठीक है ना? अच्छा, whenever I start now, don't start reading the content of Ind AS. Don't start reading. Till I read, you don't read. If you want to read, read in your home. Once you come into the class, you should focus on whatever I am saying. What will happen if you read Ind AS content? The interest of the class will go. Correct now? So it might happen I am asking some question that you need to respond. So can I say, when I say provision, what actually provision means? Anyone who can say what is the provision? Fast, but anyone who can answer what is the meaning of provision? Bolo. Provision, what is the meaning of provision? Aja, chodo. You don't know provision. If you are not raising hand, so we'll proceed. Okay. Means I will assume that you don't know provision. Am I right or not? So my second question is that whether provision is a liability or it is not a liability. Means how many are saying provision is a liability? How many are saying provision is not a liability? So provisions are not a liability. You are saying provisions are not a liability. So how many are saying provisions are liability? Provisions. I mean, there is a doubt whenever these questions are asked, and if the mixed answer is coming, it means there is a doubt about this topic. Correct now. Means one thing is clear that you passed CA Inter, which is one of the toughest exam already we have discussed, but without any concept. Am I right or not? If doubt is there, so without any concept or not? Arey bol do yes. I am asking you, you need to respond na. Then what is the need of this face-to-face class? Better you take virtual class only. Am I right or not? If I'm asking why? Because you are face-to-face student. Otherwise, so I can also teach in front of camera, and you can listen me from your home only. Yes or no? Please respond. Please respond. Okay. So what I am saying, key provision is a liability, is not a liability. If you are not able to answer, so it means there is some doubt about CA Inter concept. Because only basic question I am asked whether provision is a liability or provision is not a liability. Yes or no? Correct. So this you need to understand in CA final. CA final, this should not be repeated. CA final, once you have done this chapter, you should be aware of one fact that yes, you have understood that chapter logically, not only because of content given in the index. You should also know why, how, and what. Means there are 3 points. What is the content? What is the topic? First thing, what to, of course we will do. Correct. Then how, why it has been done, why means reason of that, and how we need to do. These 3 points if you have understood: what, why, and how. Always think about this: what, why, and how. If you have understood these 3 words of any topic, it means you have understood the concept. And if you are not getting answer of any of these 3 questions, it means you need to require more clarification regarding that topic. So we will not discuss that. I'll just start from one point: contingency. Do you know the word contingencies? You have done AS4, contingencies and event occurring after balance sheet date. But contingencies, I know no teacher has defined in CA Inter. Contingencies you have never asked, and no teacher has defined in CA Inter. But do you know about the contingencies? What is the meaning of contingencies? So contingency means what? I'll just respond. Contingency means any situation or any condition on balance sheet date. On balance sheet date, the outcome of which is not known. Outcome means the result. So any condition existing on which date? Balance sheet date. Outcome of which is not known, and which is dependent on what? Which is dependent upon happening or non-happening of uncertain future event. Uncertain future event which is not within the control of entity. So this is contingency. One second, can you repeat with me? Contingency means what? Condition or situation existing on balance sheet date, outcome of which is not known, which is dependent on happening or non-happening of uncertain future event, which is not within the control of entity. This is known as contingencies. So contingency you have understood, correct? So when I say contingency, my question to you, if you have understood this definition, but the contingency arises from past event or it is based on future event? Past event means you are getting the flow of the topic. You are getting the flow of the topic. It arises from past event because it is the condition existing on balance sheet date. Means it arises because of past event. It means contingency arises from past event. I mean, right now I am not teaching you Ind AS. Okay, the contingency, this term has not been defined in Ind AS. This contingency I am doing as per AS AS4, as per AS4. But very important word, very important terms for any accountant. Any accountant means chartered accountant. Okay. There is a difference between accountant and chartered accountant. We are accountant or chartered accountant? Chartered accountant. We are not accountant. Huh? We are not accountant. So somebody is saying that we means after doing CA, after becoming CA, you should not prefer accounting job. You should not prefer accounting job. We are not made for accounting. We are not made for accounting. So if someone is giving 20 lakh for accounting job, don't take. We are not for accounting job. Correct? Okay, yes sir. So contingency means what? Arises from past event. Can I say outcome of which? Outcome of which may be favorable, or it can be unfavorable, because that is not known na. It can be either favorable or unfavorable. It cannot be both. It can be either favorable or unfavorable. Unfavorable, yes sir. When I say favorable means what? Can I say it will result in some expected income in future? Expected income. So can I say favorable means expected income? Expected income. Correct? Income include gains. So when I say income include gains. So there is no need to say expected income or gain. Income include gain. So income is a wider term. Income is a wider term. So income include gain. So once you say income include gain. So there is no need to say once again gain. In Bachpan maybe used to say income or gain. Yes or no? Similarly, unfavorable means what? Expected. Bolo. Expenses. Expenses include losses. But when you say losses now, losses is a part of expense, I will say. Correct now. So don't say only losses, say expenses. Understood? I hope you are understanding. Yes, sir. So expected expenses. Understood? So my question to you, this expected income or expenses arises from past event or future event? Past event means all things we are discussing about past event. We are not discussing about future event. The happening or non-happening of uncertain future event means this outcome is dependent on what? Uncertain future event. Uncertain future event. But this arises from what? Past event. Arises from past event. Means can I say ultimately we are discussing about conservatism principle. We are discussing about conservatism principle. Are bol de yes. What is conservatism? One second. One by one. I say, if you say everyone, then how can I understand who is saying? Anyone who want to say, raise your hand and can say. Now no one will say. So I am asking very basic question, conservatism. This is very basic question na. I bol de yes. And if you are not able to answer, then what I will feel about you? What I will feel about you? I should feel bad or good? Bad only. You should realize this fact. You should realize, yes, I should feel bad na. How you pass CA foundation? How you pass CA enter? But for passing that examination, what is not required? Concept is not required. Only working knowledge required. But final में नहीं चलेगा. Who is watching? Who is watching? ICAI is watching. Correct? ICAI will watching. All filtration has been done in CA Inter. Entire filtration has been done. Means you all are filtered student and you all will become CA. All will become CA. 100% guarantee. Means I have never seen any CA final student. Means who has, means I will say from my point of view only 5 to 10% quit exam. So I am not saying about that. Who write exam, in some attempt they will become CA. But the point is that you need to decide when you are going to become CA. When you are going to become CA. Understood na? So everyone will become CA. But when you are going to become CA, that you need to decide. That you need to decide. Correct? So what I was asking, what is the meaning of conservatism? Batao. We record all our expected expenses and losses. Bolo. immediately. Then but will not recognize expected income. Understood this point? Expected income and expense. So which expected income expense? All expected income expense? If few expected income expense. We are discussing about all expected expense income. We are discussing about few. All expected expenses means you don't know the meaning of conservatism. Right now I have just said you need to say arising from what? Past event. Means if I say expected salary, will you recognize? Expected salary of next year, will you recognize right now? That is also expected, but that is arising from which event? Future event. But we are discussing about what? Past event. Means right now if you say this definition, I will say that you don't know the meaning of conservatism. Yes or no? If you are saying all expected income, all expected expenses, so it is not correct. So the correct meaning is what? Conservatism means to provide for all expected expenses arising from past event, but do not anticipate any expected income arising from past event. Past event, we never think about future event. Can we record future event? Can we think about future? We are not Pandit. We are what? Chartered accountant. Understood? Are you able to understand? The key term is what? Arising from past event. Means this is the key term. If you have understood this, it means you have understood Ind AS 37, AS 29. Arising from which event? Past event. So favorable means what? Expected income. So can you see? Right now you have said do not recognize. Do not recognize. Do not recognize. No. Do not recognize. Understood? And this will call what? Contingent asset. We call it what? Contingent asset. Understood? So bachpan mein I hope you have done contingent asset will not be recognized. It will be only disclosed. You remember? Yes or no? Same thing. Nothing changed now. Life has not been changed. But I will be dealing with concepts. Correct. Now expected expenses. This can be what? This can be what? Can I say either provision or what? Contingent liability. Contingent liability. It means now we need to understand when it will become provision. When it will become what? Contingent liability. Now you all know that provision will be recognized. Provision will be recognized. So provision will be recognized. So when to recognize that we need to understand. And contingent liability will not be recognized. Will not be recognized. Recognized means what? Recorded. Recorded means will not pass any journal entry for this. Means this will not appear in balance sheet. This will not appear in our financial statement. So contingent liability and contingent asset are off balance sheet item. Off balance sheet item means what? Outside balance sheet. Off balance sheet means what? Off balance sheet. Off balance sheet means what? Outside balance sheet. Outside balance sheet means in notes to account. That is the off balance sheet. New term I am giving, off balance sheet item. Off balance sheet item means it will not come inside the balance sheet. It will come outside the balance sheet. Outside the balance sheet means what? In notes to account. Yes or no? Correct. So recognize means it will be recorded. Recorded means will pass a journal entry for that. Correct. So provision will be recognized. Contingent liability will not be recognized. It means now we need to understand when to recognize provision, when not to recognize provision. So when you will not recognize, it will become contingent liability. It will become contingent liability. But can I say entire topic depends upon what? The term contingency. So contingency, when I am saying, it does not mean contingent liability. We are not discussing about contingent liability. What is the meaning of contingency? Contingency means condition or situation existing on balance sheet date, outcome of which is not known, which is dependent on happening or non-happening of uncertain future event, which is not within the control of entity. Simple. Correct. Picture is in front of you. Now this, just try to understand everyone. Means can I say, if I say accounting treatment, so we are doing accounting treatment of only this part, expected expenses. Means we are not doing any accounting entry for expected income. Means we are not passing any journal entry for expected income. बोल दे यार. Correct, yes sir. But detailed discussion we'll do in India 37. I'm just a bit teaching you what you have done in CA Inter. What you have done in CA Inter. Now coming to this, just try to understand. So we are discussing about expected expenses to which may arise due to two reasons. Due to either decline in the value of what? Value of asset, or increase in the value of liability. Yes or no? Increase in the value of liability. Decline in the value of asset or increase in the value of liability. Either decline in the value of asset, For example, you have done debtor, you have done provision for doubtful debt. So provision for doubtful debt is increase in the value of liability or decrease in the value of asset? Increase in the value of liability or decrease in the value of asset? Huh? Means provision for doubtful debt is not a liability. What I am asking, provision for doubtful debt is a liability, is not a liability? Huh? Provision for doubtful debt is a liability, it is not a liability? Not a liability? Not a liability. Provision for doubtful debt is not a liability, that is 100% correct. So decline in the value of asset, can I say it is not a liability? Not a liability. It is only adjustment. It is only adjustment to assets. Yes or no? Adjustment to asset. Am I right or not? Adjustment to asset. This type of loss are known as impairment loss. We call it what? Impairment loss. A new term in your life. Impairment loss is a new term in your life. Whether you have listened this term, impairment loss, where you have done. There was one AS28 which was not in CA Inter syllabus, old scheme. Impairment of asset. So I think you have not heard about impairment loss. So whenever there is a decline in the value of asset, we call it impairment loss. We call it what? Impairment loss. And this is outside the scope of Ind AS 37. Means Ind AS 37 does not deal with this. Means this part is not covered under Ind AS 37. This part is not covered under Ind AS 37. A very simple example I will say. You have done inventory bachpan mein. Inventory which accounting standard? So now it is Ind AS 2. Now I am only writing Ind AS, okay? Correct. AS2 and Ind AS 2 95% once again same. So as per AS2 or Ind AS 2, inventory is valued at cost price or NRB, whichever is lower. Why? Why not higher? Why not higher? Expected losses, this topic only na. This topic, expected losses arising from which event? Past event or future event? Past event na. Past event. Everything is past event. So that means that impairment loss is covered in which AS? AS2. It is not covered under AS29. Means it arises from contingencies. It arises from contingency but not covered under Ind AS 37. Are you able to understand what I am saying? It is not covered under AS 29, is not covered under Ind AS 37. Am I right? So it's very simple example I have given. It is cost price or NRB, whichever is lower. Similarly, if I say debtor, understood? So their impairment loss is covered under Ind AS 109 coming soon. Ind AS 109 coming soon. Are you able to understand? So for that we create provision for doubtful debt. Provision for doubtful debt. But now what AS 29 says, if you remember AS 29, so AS 29 says provision is a liability. Provision is a liability. Provision is a liability. Means provisions are liability, no doubt about that. Means can I say this, when I am saying about this, so this will result in provision. So provisions are liability. So my question to you all, whether this impairment loss can be given a name provision for doubtful debt. Okay, that is a wrong name. Provision for doubtful debt. Because provisions are what? Liability. And right now you have said provision for doubtful debt is not a liability. You have only said provision for doubtful debt is not a liability. Therefore, that is not a correct terminology. However, which we were using up to CA inter, but in CA final will not use. In CA final will not call it provision for doubtful debt. Because provision means what? Liability. Understood this point? Understood. Therefore, we'll change the name and we'll call it allowance for bad and doubtful debt. Allowance for bad and doubtful debt. Understood? Correct. Which will be covered under Ind AS 109 coming soon. We'll do Ind AS 109, detailed discussion will be done. But more overall we'll say it is nothing but impairment loss. It is nothing but impairment loss. So whenever we say impairment, impairment is related to asset. Impairment is related to asset. For example, if I say property, plant and equipment or intangible asset or investment property, PP means what? Property, plant and equipment. IA means what? Intangible asset. IP means what? Investment property. If you don't know, write down full form. I will not write. Okay, you are writing or you are not writing? Is my good handwriting? I will not say bar bar. Okay? Because this PDF will be given to you. But from my point of view, you should write. Because writing is the best practice from examination point of view. And normally CA final student do not write only. So how they will write in exam? How they will write in exam? Means 70% student, or I will say 80% student are not able to complete 100 marks paper in exam even though they know the answer. They know the answer but they are not able to complete. Can this is the worst situation of our life? We know the answer, we are capable of writing but we are not able to write. Means the worst situation might not come in your life if you know and you can't write because of writing practice. From my point of view, every day we should write on 10 pages till we become CA. Till we become CA. 10 pages we should write down. Because in exam, so you will take more than one sheet, na? And I think one paper of that is of 24 pages. Means you write that in 3 hours. You need to write down more than 30 pages. So can you write down? Can you write down in exam? You can't write. Are you getting what I am saying? ठीक है, चलो ठीक है, बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे. So PP means what? Property, plant and equipment. IA means what? Intangible asset. IP means what? Investment property. This all is covered. That loss is covered under Ind AS 36 coming soon. It is known as impairment. We call it impairment loss. All are impairment only. All are impairment only. Understood? I think Thora you have understood. It means when we are coming to increase in the value of liability, so this is nothing but covered under Ind AS 37, which can be either provision or contingent liability. So now we have understood that when you recognize this provision, these provisions are what? Are liability. These provisions are liability. So we are going to discuss about these provisions in this chapter. Got this point? So scope is to understand the meaning of term provision and when to recognize provision, and what is contingent liability and what is contingent asset. This is our scope. Now we can start what Ind AS 37. Now we can start Ind AS 37. Believe me, if I would have started Ind AS 37 without teaching this, so what will happen? Once again lack of knowledge. Once again lack of knowledge. Understood? Can we start now? Let us come to Ind AS 37. We can see meaning provision. Provisions are liability. Oh. Provisions are liability. Started provisions are liability. Correct? It means provisions are liability, but all liabilities are not provisions. All liabilities are not provisions. So which liabilities are provision, that we need to understand? Which liabilities are provision, that we need to understand? Means all liabilities are not provision. So we need to understand which liabilities are provision. But to understand provision, first we need to understand what is liability. Can you say without understanding the meaning of liability, we can't understand the meaning of provision? Because provisions are liability. So what is liability? That we need to understand. So what is liability? Obligation to pay. Means this is this answer now everyone can say. A foundation student can say obligation to pay. But I am in which class? Can you see? You should say the exact definition. And after becoming CA, if you say obligation to pay, then I will say, why I will appoint you? I can appoint accountant also. Because accountant also know that divine. Obligation to pay. Yes or no? Asset means right to receive. Sir, bye. Okay, I can understand. Because I was also like you. Nothing to worry. But we need to change. We need to change. Otherwise, ICAI will change you. So don't give any chance to ICAI to change you. Are you getting? Either you only change by your own. Otherwise, ICAI is there to change you. Understood? Means ICAI will 100% make you CA. But after changing you. So what is the meaning of liability? Liability means present obligation, not all obligation. Only present obligation. Means all obligations are not liability. If you are saying obligation to pay, so all obligation to pay is not a liability. Only present obligation. So sir, what is the meaning of present obligation? That we need to understand. Correct now. So liability means present obligation arising from what? Past event. Obligation to pay. Obligation to pay for future event. There is an obligation. I have done one contract to purchase machinery in future. So there is an obligation to pay. But as per which event? No. I have done one contract to purchase one machinery in future. Machinery will purchase in future. I have done one contract right now. But machinery will be purchased in future. There is an obligation to pay for which event? Future event. So will you recognize liability? No, Baba, no. No. Means if you till you know the exact meaning, you will not able to convince others. Correct. So obligation to pay not. Present obligation arising from past event. Present obligation arising from past event. Understood? So arising from past event, this you understood. Present obligation means what? That we need to understand now. Present obligation means if obligation is probable on reporting date. Reporting date means what? Balance sheet date. Now we'll use the term reporting date. Balance sheet date. We'll leave. In Ind AS we'll call it what? A reporting date. Okay. Even though you are writing balance sheet date, it is not wrong. Correct. But we'll call it reporting date. Okay. So what is the meaning of present obligation? The obligation is probable on which date? What is the meaning of probable, sir? When chances are more than 50%. When chances are more than 50%. It means, can I say, present obligation means probable? Probable means what? Chances are more than 50%. Can I say, when I say chances are more than 50%, it includes 100% also? When I am saying chances are more than 50%, it will include 100% also, na? Yes, sir. Correct. So present obligation arising from past event. Correct. The settlement of which, of course, can I say it will be settled in future? The settlement of which, it will be settled in future. It will be paid in future. The settlement of which is expected to result in outflow of resource from the entity. Outflow of resource. So resource means what? Okay, resource means asset. Resource means asset. It can be in the form of cash or any other asset. It can be in the form of cash or any other asset. So settlement of which is expected to result in an outflow of resource from the entity. From the entity. Understood? Liability you understood. Liability you understood? Yes, sir. Correct. Now I'll ask you some example. Now whatever answer you will give, you need to give answer as per today's class, not as per your past classes. That we are not supposed to recognize in our class. So whatever you have learned in your past classes, forget. Only you need to answer as per the present classes, today's classes. So I hope you have understood the meaning of liability. Can we repeat once again? Liability means present obligation arising from past event, a settlement of which is expected to result in outflow of resource from the entity. Correct? Any doubt you can ask me. Now I'll give you some example. Can I say in balance if we write on equity and liability? Equity and liability. Whether equity and liability are same or different? Different only. Name is different only. So equity is not a liability and liability is not an equity. Means if it meets the definition of liability, it should not be shown where? In equity. Am I right? Now I'll just ask you some example based on today's understanding. You need to answer. Correct? First, equity share capital is a liability or equity? Equity. This you have said as per today's class, as per past classes. Today's class now. Answer is correct. Sir, bachpan se we are writing equity share capital where? In equity only. Because this comes from what? Your stomach. Either you have understood or not understood. It might happen. Correct? But this is correct. Second, redeemable preference share capital. Redeemable preference share capital. Now, if you are saying equity, means you have not understood today's class. No, First answer what most of the students have said, equity. Means it is coming from stomach. Adu, correct now. Means what is in our stomach? The food which we have consumed but not digested. Undigested food. That will be only in your stomach, na? Am I right or not? Means the concept you have read, but it was not digested properly. And it is still in stomach. And whatever you are saying, that is not correct. Means today's point you have not understood. Abhi you have said that you have understood the meaning of liability. I have warned you that whatever you are saying, say as per current class, not as per your past classes. Redeemable preference share capital. Let us apply the meaning. Whether there is a present obligation arising from past event. Yes, obligation is there. Present, yes, the chances are more than 50%, I will say 100% to repay the amount. Because there is a contractual agreement to redeem after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Am I right or not? Correct? And the settlement of which is expected to result in what? Outflow of resource from the entity. It means it is what? It meets the definition of liability or not? What you have done in your past class, forget it. Otherwise, you will be emotionally affected in my class. Emotionally affected. Are you getting? So, redeemable preference share capital meet the definition of liability. Therefore, it is a liability and it will be shown in the liability side of balance sheet. Now, in CA final. In CA final, redeemable preference share capital will be shown as a liability. Understood? Correct? Got this point? I am not saying what you have done in CA Inter that is not correct. I am not teaching you CA Inter. In CA Inter there was no accounting standard for liability. Whether there was any accounting standard you have done for redeemable preference share capital, nothing was done. Means whatever you have done in CA Inter that was based on Companies Act. Division 1 of Schedule 3. Last class already I have said that we can't override the requirement of Companies Act, but Companies Act, whether that is correct accounting, that is not correct accounting. Got this point? Have you understood? The redeemable preference share capital will meet the definition of liability. One more example. Think and say. Compulsory convertible debenture. Compulsory convertible debenture. Now I am not asking whether it is equity. I am asking whether it is a liability or it is not a liability. Compulsory convertible debenture. Liability or not a liability? How many are saying liability? Everyone is saying not a liability? The answer is not coming. Understood why answer is not coming? Still doubtful about definition. You are doubtful about the definition. Means still now you have not understood the definition, na? अरे बोलना रे. Let us apply definition. Compulsory convertible debenture. Whether there is a present obligation. Yes, it might be present obligation, but the settlement of which, whether it will result in outflow of resource, whether there is any outflow of resource, no, there is no outflow of resource. It will be converted into equity shares. It will be converted into equity shares. So there is no outflow of resource. If there is no outflow of resource, it cannot be liability. It cannot be liability. But for compulsory convertible debenture, we'll do some more discussion in some other chapter. But can I say from present definition, can I conclude that compulsory convertible debenture, because it will not result in outflow of resource, therefore it is not a liability, it should not be shown in the liability side of balance sheet? Are you getting what I am saying? Are you able to understand? Correct? However, thoda sa understanding I will say, कि there are some portions for which there is an obligation to pay through outflow of resource, that is interest component. So actually compulsory convertible debenture is having some equity portion, some liability component. Detailed discussion will be done in some other chapter. I am just giving some emotional attachment of Ind AS in the first class. In the first class, I am just warning you, be careful. We are going to change your life as per accountancy is concerned. As per accountancy is concerned. Got this point? Correct. So now I am just thinking that liability definition to you have understood. Can we repeat? Liability means present obligation arising from the past event, the settlement of which is expected to result in outflow of resource. Correct. Now provisions are liability. Liability we have understood of uncertain timing or amount. Means if that liability is not certain regarding timing or amount, then it becomes provision. Means can I say, if you know the timing of payment, if you know the amount of payment, it is a pure liability. It is a liability. Means it is not a provision. But when you don't know the timing of payment or amount of payment or both, it becomes provision. It becomes provision. In simple word, whenever liability require estimation, it is what? Provision. In some, whenever liability require estimation regarding timing of payment or amount of payment, it become what? Provision. It means provisions are liability of uncertain amount or timing which require measurement by substantial degree of estimation. So whenever estimation is involved, it become what? Provision. And whenever there is no estimation, it is a liability. However, all provisions are liability, but all liabilities are not provision. Correct? Means I hope when you have done the format of schedule 3 division 1, so you have done non-current liability, current liability. In non-current liability also you have written provision. In current liability also you have mentioned provision. But all liabilities are not provision, but you have disclosed provision under which head? Liability only. Means you have done that only in your CA enter. The provisions are liability. Provisions are liability. Correct? Understood this much? Correct? Yes. This probable we have understood a past event is deemed to give rise to a present obligation if it is probable, that is more likely than not. Probable means more likely than not. More likely than not means chances of occurrence of event is more than chances of non-occurrence of event. Means chances of occurrence of loss is more than chances of non-occurrence of loss. Correct? Means chances are more than 50%. If chances of occurrence are more than chances of non-occurrence, it is probable. Means chances are more than 50% in simple word. Correct? Understood? Now on reporting date, can I say we are discussing on reporting date? The provision we recognize on reporting date. So on reporting date, can I say we need to identify past event? But all past event will not give rise to obligation now. Because there are some past event for which obligation is already settled. Means only those past event which will give rise to present obligation on reporting date, that should be only considered. That should be only considered. So those past event which give rise to obligation on reporting date are considered as obligating event. Obligating event. So on balance sheet date, on reporting date, we need to find out what obligating event. Obligating event are those past event which will give rise to obligation on reporting date. So those past event which give rise to obligation on balance sheet date are known as obligating event. This I am teaching you for MCQs. Now because of MCQs, all paras are important. They may ask you obligating event are those event. They will give 4 options. You need to choose one correct option. So this might be important. I don't know MCQs, what level of MCQs they are going to ask. That we don't know right now. Correct. This much you understood. Now the question arises, can I say we are discussing about obligation? We are discussing about obligation on which date? Arising from past event. Now Ind AS 37 says these obligations are of 2 types. One is known as constructive obligation, one is known as legal obligation. So it means we are dealing with 2 types of obligation. One is legal obligation, one is constructive obligation. AS 29 was silent regarding what? AS 29 was silent regarding constructive obligation. This become difference between AS 29 and Ind AS 37. AS 29 was completely silent about constructive obligation, means new term in your life. Legal obligation, from the terminology we have understood, any obligation which arises due to any contract or any act or any other legislation of law. Correct? Means can I say contractual obligation and legal obligation both are legal obligation? Means we have done one contract now. We have done one contract. Means it can be implied, it can be expressed, it can be written, it can be oral. Contract, so you know na. Contract I am not teaching. Okay. So we have done one contract. But can I say you have a contractual obligation to pay some amount? And if you have not paid, you need to record one liability in your books of account or not? That is due to contract. That is due to contract. Correct. Legal obligation is because of act, etc. For example, I am doing business, so I will earn some profit. On profit, I need to pay some income tax. So income tax payable is a liability because of act. That is also what? Arising from legal obligation. Correct. So any obligation which is due to contract, legislation or any other obligation of law will become what? Legal obligation. So it means provision will be created because of legal obligation on reporting date. So what is the meaning of constructive obligation? That you explain. Correct. Just try to understand. We have done one contract today. Okay. And because of that contract, I need to teach you and you need to pay me. In this contract, which party has an obligation? Which party has an obligation? Student or teacher? Both. Very good. If you are saying both, means very good. So both party have a right, both party have an obligation. So in one contract, both party will have their own right, both party will have their own obligation. So I have a right to receive consideration and I have an obligation to teach. Obligation to teach. You have a right to receive services, an obligation to pay. But in this contract, liability will be recorded in whose books? In both books, given books. Are you able to? Both parties have an obligation. I have an obligation to perform services. You have an obligation to pay consideration. So both have obligation. So Ind AS 37 will be applicable in whose books of account? Student books of account, teacher books of account. Student books of account, because that obligation will result in settlement of outflow of resource. In my case, it is not outflow of resource. It means that obligation is to perform services, that is not outflow of resource. So in your books, Ind AS 37 will be applicable. In my books, Ind AS 37 will not be applicable. Understood? Have you understood this point? It means we are discussing on obligation of outflow of resource. obligation of outflow of resource. This point have you understood? Correct. Now, in this contract you have understood. Now what happened during one of the class, means today only, suppose contract done, I will teach and you need to pay. Now today I have announced one statement in front of you. Correct. The statement is what? Any student who is scoring 90 or more than 90 in FR exam conducted by ICAI in any of the attempt, I will refund 50% of fees. This is actual announcement. Huh? Actual announcement. Means if you are scoring 90 or more than 90%, this is higher limit or you can achieve. I should reduce the mark. Huh? Are you follow? Yes, sir. So let us make it 85. 85, okay? 80? Chalo, 80 ka dete hain. Your choice. In this batch, for the first time, I am saying 80. Okay? Now to happy? Smile. Smile. Chalo. So any student who is scoring 80 or more than 80 in an exam conducted by ICAI in FR paper only. Contract. I am just disclosing all the points. Huh? I will refund what? 50% of the fees whatever you have paid. Fees whatever you have paid. So discounted fees, the discounted amount. Huh? Correct? Understood what I am saying? So 50% of fees whatever you have paid, I will refund. Understood? Correct. This is an announcement done. Whether there is any contractual obligation, whether it is a contract, whether I have announced, I have just offered, you have not accepted. Huh? No acceptance. Whether you accepted. Huh? You have not accepted it. So it is not a contract. Offer and acceptance required, na? So it is not a contract. It means it is not a contractual obligation. But whether I should create a provision for this, means of course can I say exam will come, some of the student might score more than 80, and once you score 80 or more than 80, I need to pay what? 50% of fee. So it means outflow of resource there. So whether should we create liability for this? Yes or no? Ind AS 37 says yes. This will give rise to constructive obligation. This will give rise to constructive obligation. So what is constructive obligation? Very new term, very important term of your life. Now, constructive obligation means what? Any obligation which derive from entity's own action. Today I have done one action, na? Entity's own action, which may be due to past practice. Suppose in the past batches, I always used to refund the fees. So in these batches also I refund the fees due to past practice or due to published policy. For example, in the website, it is already declared that any student who scored 80 or more than 80, I will refund the fees 50%. So it is published policy, correct? Or a specific statement. Today I have done one specific statement. So it may arise due to past practice, published policies, specific statement, correct? Which indicate that entity will accept the responsibility. I will accept the responsibility. Once I have announced, can I say, I will pay, and if I will not pay, you will say negative about me. I am bound to pay. Once you have declared, once the result is declared and you come with the result, I am bound to pay. Yes or no? Correct? So can I say, which indicate entity will accept the responsibility, and it create a valid expectation on the part of other party. Can I say, once I announce, you become happy now? Yes. Expectation increases or not? Expectation increases. Now I don't know whether you will perform or you will not perform. Now from today, whether you are studying for 1 hour or not, that I don't know. But can I, some expectation came or not? So which create a valid expectation on the part of other party. It means I am under constructive obligation. Therefore, Ind AS 37 will be applicable to me, and I will create provision for what? This refund. How? We'll understand. Constructive obligation you have understood. So constructive obligation means which derive from entity's own action. It may be either due to past practice, published policies, or a specific statement which indicate that entity will accept the responsibility and which create a valid expectation on the part of other party. Understood? Correct. This Ind AS Saransh book I have designed in such a way that it is in very simple words. correct? But this much you should write down in exam. If you are not writing this much, so you may or may not get marks. One more point I will just say that in CA exam you don't get marks for correct answers. This you should understand from the beginning. I understood this point when I was doing CA final, that we don't get marks for correct answer. We get marks for the best answer. There is a difference between correct answer and best answer. Correct now. Suppose one simple question have been asked. All have given correct answer. Whether all will pass. Result is 20%. It cannot be more than 20%. This you also know, I also know. And this is a fact. Suppose one simple question paper came. Everyone have given correct answer. Then also all will not pass. Result is 25%, not 20 or 25%. It cannot be more than that. It means we are not getting marks for what? Correct answer. It means we need to give best answer as per the requirement of ICAI. As per the requirement of ICAI. Are you getting what I am saying? Means suppose some questions come, you said yes, provision should be created because it is a constructive obligation. One answer is this. Second answer, yes, it is a constructive obligation, provision should be required. Constructive obligation they have defined also as per India 37. Now this become what? Best answer. This fact you need to realize from the beginning, that we are not getting marks for correct answer, we are getting marks for what? Best answer. And then write answer in exam. And who is checking your paper? CA. Which chartered accountant? But which chartered accountant? Any chartered accountant who have passed the CA final exam? But any busy chartered accountant will check the paper. Anyone who is busy, because I don't check the paper. Because I don't have time to check the paper. Even though they pay for that, will I check the paper? Arey bolna re. I don't have time only. Means who have the time? Who has the time to check the paper? No, I am not insulting anyone. Huh? Please don't take it another way. If someone is checking, this is a very good work to check the paper. Correct. But who is checking the paper? Who is no work? I am not insulting anyone. Please. Okay, I am just giving one hint, which it might happen that CA has taken multiple attempts. Suppose that CA has taken 5 attempts. Will they give you marks? Right thinking that only. The paper is checked by any CA who has taken 5 attempts. And then write an answer. Because he has also taken 5 attempts, he will not give free marks. He will not give bonus marks. Tit for tat na. This is the only happen in CA exam. And we need to accept it. We need to accept it. And if you do not accept it, multiple attempt will come. So right answer thinking that your paper will be checked by those who have taken multiple attempts. He will not give any free marks. He will not give any bonus marks. इसके साथ भी तो हुआ ना? Yes or no? Am I right or not? So right after knowing this fact. Okay. Now coming to the next point, recognition of provision. This was the main point. When to recognize provision. I hope with all this discussion you have understood when to recognize provision. There are 3 conditions as per India 37. Same condition was given in AS 29. When all the 3 conditions are satisfied, we should recognize provision. Recognize provision means what? Recognize means record provision. Means past journal entry. Means record in books of account. Correct? So first there must be present obligation arising from past event. First condition you have understood. Outflow of resource which is required to settle the obligation is also probable. And a reliable estimation can be made for the amount or timing of obligation. Reliable estimation can be made. If estimation cannot be made, then how can we record? We can't record. So a reliable estimation can be made. Means can I say how to measure? This is one point. How to measure? How measurement should be done? So this is the next topic. How to measure the amount of provision, that is one significant point that we need to understand, that we will discuss in later classes. Correct? Right now we are discussing when to recognize. So when to recognize? When these 3 conditions satisfied. Can you repeat with me? There must be present obligation arising from past events. Now we have understood this obligation can be what? Either legal or constructive obligation. So there must be present legal or constructive obligation arising from past event. Outflow of resource which is required to settle the obligation is also probable. Means now they have used the probable in 2 points. Point number 1, present obligation, that obligation is also probable, and outflow of resource is also probable. So both need to be probable. Probable means chances are more than 50%. So obligation must be probable and outflow of resource must be probable. If any one of these are not probable, it means provisions can't be recognized. So when I say obligation is probable, what does it mean? Means chances of occurrence of that event is probable. So first, occurrence of that event must be probable, and once that is probable, outflow of resource must be also probable. Outflow of resource must be also probable. I'll just give a very good example. You'll understand the importance of this para. This question, I think whatever question I am taking, it is a CA inter question only. CA inter basic question. I think most of you have done that question in your CA inter. Okay? Let us take one example. Suppose Air India. Now the Air India has been taken by whom? Tata. Is doing commercial business of what? Flights to carry public, to transport public from one place to another place. So they purchase aeroplane. This is aeroplane, huh? Correct. They purchase one aeroplane. Correct. Now once they purchase aeroplane, so there is one act, I think National Aviation Act, whatever, I don't know the exact name. Act. There is one act. As per that act, if any aeroplane is used for the public transportation, so that aeroplane require major inspection after every 3 years. After every 3 years. Correct? It means it required major inspection after every 3 years. Major inspection means each part need to be cross-checked to avoid accident. One is a routine check. Routine check is not major inspection. Routine check means it will not incur huge expenditure. But when I am saying major inspection, can I say it will incur huge expenditure? Let us assume that we know the amount of expenditure also, and let us assume that it will result in 1 crore expenditure. But after how many years? 3 years. So today we purchase on 1/4/2023. Balance sheet date comes 31st March 2024. So on this date, should we create any provision for this major inspection? Yes or no? Can you say there is a legal obligation arising from past event? Once you purchase and you started using for commercial purpose, the act will apply. So there is a legal obligation arising from past event. First condition satisfied. Yes or no? But whether outflow of resources is probable, can we avoid such expenditure? Can we avoid such expenditure? Yes, we can avoid. After 3 years, we'll discard it. Aeroplane can be discarded or not? Or we'll sell it. Means can I say we need to incur expenditure if after 3 years we'll use it, na? If we'll discard it or if we'll sell it what? After 3 years, then that expenditure is not required. Can I say it means this expenditure is avoidable? Avoidable means what? That outflow of resource is not probable. Outflow of resource is not probable, and therefore provision should not be recognized. Therefore provision should not be recognized. So there is a present obligation, but outflow of resource is not probable. Therefore will not recognize any provision for this major inspection. Understood? Major inspection. Understood this point? Are we able to understand the importance of second condition? The importance of second condition. Correct. One more example to clear this doubt. I have understood from your face you are not happy with this example. Sometimes happen. I have given an example, but you are thinking so much. Arey, ye kya ho gaya? Let me take one more example. You will be able to understand. I am just giving one better example. See, suppose you have an office and you have many employees. Many employees. Correct. Understood. Now, these employees, knows all accounting work. Correct? They are already trained with accounting and income tax work. Let us assume. Okay. Now what happened? There is a major amendment. Suppose Income Tax Act totally changed. Totally 100% change. 100% I am saying. It happens with VAT become GST totally change. Na? It is quite possible Income Tax Act, some new government will come, they will totally change the act only. Quite possible Income Tax Act is totally changed. It means now we need to train the employee. Now we train the employee now. Because they know the past act, they don't know this amendment, they don't know this new act. So they require training. Yes or no? Should we create any provision for training expenses? Should we create any provision for training expenses? Are you able to understand what I am saying? Should we create any provision for training expenses? It is avoidable. Now understood, it is avoidable. How it is avoidable? Huh? Once again? Termination. Can I say what will do? Will appoint new employee only? Will appoint the trained employee? Quite possible, na? So it means such expenses, of course there is a present obligation arising from past event, but outflow of resources is not probable because such expenses are avoidable. So if that expenditure is avoidable, then why you are creating provision? So it means outflow of resources not probable, so provision is not required. You may require disclosure as contingent liability. I am not teaching you right now contingent liability. I am teaching you what? Provision right now. It means second condition not satisfied and therefore provision is not required. Therefore provision is not required. Understood? One more example you want? There can be n number of examples. Can I say example is not important? Concept is important. I don't know what question they are going to ask in exam. They may ask any other question. They may give any other case study. So whether question is important or concept is important? Concept. So don't focus on question. Focus on what? Concept. In any scenario, you need to reply. In any circumstances, you need to react or not. So reaction can be done only through concept, not with the questions. I can create many questions. One more question, let us take. Suppose there is one factory. There is factory and this factory is polluting of the entire environment. Air pollution, water pollution, all pollution it is doing. Correct? Understood this point? Now, they have received a notice from the local government to either change the production process or to feed some smoke filter. To feed some smoke filter or change the production process. Are you getting what I am saying? Correct. And if you can't change the production process, close down the factory. Close down the factory. Now the question is that fitting the smoke filter require expenditure. Suppose the expenditure also we can estimate. Suppose the fitting expenditure is 1 crore. Should we create provision for this? Should we create provision for this? Right now 31st March, just try to understand. We don't know what we are going to do. Whether outflow is probable, we can close down the factory. We can change the production process. We can do anything now. So can I say this is avoidable? Once again, such expenditure is avoidable or not? Yes, it can be avoidable. Therefore, provision is not required. Therefore, provision is not required. I have just given 3 examples to clear your doubt. So can I say this is very important point. Outflow resource which is required to settle the obligation is probable. And entire provision is based on point number 2. Because point number 1, most of the question point number 1 will be satisfied. Because they will create a question like that. But you need to answer based on point number 2. Point number 2 is more important. Point number 3, even though question is silent, we'll always assume estimation can be done. Means if suppose question is silent and you say estimation can't be done, then so we will always assume estimation can be done because we can estimate anything. We can estimate anything. So if in exam this point number 3 is silent, always assume yes, estimation can be made. estimation can be made. Until unless question mention that yes, estimation can't be made, then so of course it cannot be a provision. That is fine. So point number D, now you'll understand, only those obligations which exist independently from entity's future conduct of business should be recognized. Means can I say these all examples are dependent on future conduct of business. These are all based on future conduct of business. So whenever obligations are dependent on future conduct of business, then provision should not be recognized. Means only those obligations which exist independently from what? Future conduct of business should be recognized as provision. Understood? Correct. So this para is also important. Para. Only those obligations which exist independently from entity's future conduct of business should be recognized. Correct. In other words, obligations which are dependent on future conduct of business should not be recognized as provision because outflow of resources is not probable. This is very important para from exam point of view. What is? Now you might be thinking, sir is teaching only theory. Sir is not taking question from question bank. Can you say Ind AS means what? Now it is a part of law, one type of law only. Means Ind AS is what? It is a part of company rules, na? So you should know the rules first, and then only I can take practical questions. We'll start from questions. Journal entries, ledger account, balance sheet, SOP. You want that? Acha, but we CA, whether we are CA are made for journal entries, whether we are made for ledger account, whether we are made for trial balance, whether we are made for preparation of balance sheet and SOPL, whether we prepare balance sheet and SOPL, no, we are not for that. We are only for presentation of what? Financial statement. So we have taken birth only to present financial statement, not to prepare it. Who prepare? Accountant. We present it in a beautiful way so that it can understood by the user of financial statement. So Ind AS 1 is presentation of financial statement. Ind AS 1. So why you are not starting with Ind AS 1? You are starting with Ind AS 37. What is this? Start from 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So you don't know how to teach. This is my class. My rules will be followed. Correct na? Understood? Ind AS 1, if I will start now, you will die. You will die. And when I will start Ind AS 1, you will understand why I have not started Ind AS 1. Because there are many terminology, there are many concepts which you don't know right now. And if I will teach in the first class, so unnecessary I will be wasting your time. Maximum teacher start from Ind AS 1. I am for a different teacher. I will not start with Ind AS 1. Chalega? Okay. And when we will start Ind AS 1, you will understand that Ind AS 1 should be done after some classes only. Now point number E is very simple. Can you say every obligation involves third party, means other party? Sorry, not third party, other party. Obligation involve other party, na? You need to pay to some other party. Now what happened? You don't know the identification of other party. Should we recognize provision? You don't know the identification of that other party. You know there is an obligation and outflow is also probable, but we don't know the name, address, identification of that party. Should we create provision? A clarification is given, yes. Even though you don't know the identification of that party, you should create a provision. Understood? Correct? Simple. So identification is not at all important. All obligations involve other party. It is not essential to know the identity of the other party for recognition of provision. Then coming to last point, before we come to the contingent liability, about legal obligation. Legal obligation arises due to contract or act. Now when I am saying act, now the question is that if the act is not enacted, should we create provision? Enactment means what? Enactment of act. For what? It should be notified in the official Gazette of India. Then it become enacted act. Then it become act. Understood? Now the question is that if the act is not enacted, but act will be enacted in future, quite possible. Should we create provision? Means on reporting that there was no act, but we know that such act will come in future. Should we create a provision? Understood the point? On reporting that there was no such act of any legal obligation, but in future we know that that act is coming soon. Correct. Should we create provision? So what India 37 says, legal obligation arises only when legislation are enacted, or it is virtually certain. Virtually certain means chances are more than 95%. Chances are more than 95%. So we say it is virtually certain. Not certain, but virtually certain. So it is either enacted, or it is virtually certain by the end of reporting period that it will be shortly enacted. Oh, means even though not enacted, but if it is virtually certain that it is going to be enacted, we need to recognize what? Provision. Let me take one example, because this is very important from exam point of view. A question may be created from this point. Let me take one example. Suppose this is 31st March 2023. Correct. Now what happened? Because you are polluting the environment, correct? So it means you need to clean up. You need to clean up the environment. Are you getting what I am saying? You need to clean up the environment, na? The case study you understood? I am not writing everything. Suppose the entity is creating pollution, so it is our moral responsibility to clean up the environment. Suppose we are throwing chemicals in what? River, etc. It is our responsibility to clean up the river. Are you bolna rahe? Yes, sir. Now, there can be different cases. Case number 1. Act. Which act? Act for cleaning up the environment. Which act? Act to clean up the environment. Understood? Act is already enacted on or before 31st March. Should we create provision? Yes or no? Yes, we should recognize provision. First case you understood? Case number 2. Now, act is not enacted on 31st March, but it is virtually certain that it will be enacted. Understood this point? That it will be enacted. Now, sir, how will understand it is virtually certain? Can I say in India, if the bill is passed in both the houses, the president sign is formality only. In India, president is formality or not? He will 100% sign. Means, can I say if the bill is passed in both the houses, it is virtually certain that it will be enacted, even though not signed by the president, even though not notified in the official gazette of India. So can I say if bill is passed in both the houses, so it means it is virtually certain that it is going to be enacted or not. Understood? Correct. So this virtually certain has not been defined in India. Means it is a matter of judgment. It is a matter of judgment. Means judgment required. Whose judgment? Management judgment. Whether it is a virtually certain or it is not virtually certain. Correct. In exam, don't worry, they will use the term virtually certain, or they will say that yes, bill has been passed in both the houses. So it means it is virtually certain. So, should we create provision? Yes, we should create provision. Case number 3. neither case 1 nor case 2. Neither case 1 nor case 2 means neither act is enacted nor it is virtually certain that it will be enacted. Understood? But entity has published policies of cleaning the environment. Understood this point? They have a published policy of cleaning up the environment. Should they create provision? Yes, please you have understood. Why? Because there is a constructive obligation now. So this will give rise to what? Constructive obligation. This type of question already asked in exam. Constructive obligation. Now if you say yes, provision is required, 0 marks. Written because of constructive obligation, you define constructive obligation also. Then it becomes best answer. Got this point? Now, if I say case number 4, neither means case number 1, no, case number 2, no, case number 3, no. Means nothing is there. Then what? Now no provision is required. Understood? Got this point? Similar question have been asked in exam. Understood? So I think you have understood provision. Provision is completed. Understood? Now let us start contingent liability. Now we have understood about obligation. Am I right or not? Arising from my speed is okay. Speed is okay. थोड़ा सा और I will increase, okay, but not in these classes. After 5 to 6 classes, first you adapt me, then we'll increase the speed. Obligation. Now we have understood this obligation can be either legal or means in this chapter we are discussing about both, legal or constructive. Now for accounting purpose, these all obligations are of 3 types. One is known as present obligation. This already we discussed. Present obligation means MLTN. MLTN means what? More likely than not. More likely than not. One there was key term, more likely than not. Means chances of occurrence is more than chances of non-occurrence. In simple word, more than 50%. This is present obligation. Correct. Second is known as possible obligation. Possible obligation means which is not more likely than not. Not more likely than not. Means chances of occurrence is less than chances of non-occurrence. Reverse. And third is what? Remote obligation. Remote means what? Remote obligation means what? Not? No. Remote obligation is very less chances. Insignificant chances. Insignificant. Means we can say insignificant. Means as per percentage we call it less than 5%. Means if the chances are less than 5%, we call it remote obligation. A remote obligation. Means chances are there but less than 5%. Got it? Now we know one concept. In Bachpan we have done materiality concept. Materiality. You have done? What is the meaning of materiality concept? Decision making what? Decision making what? Materiality concept means what? The decision which affect financial statement. Then what? This is what? Only this much. I am not asking the definition of materiality. I am asking what is the meaning of materiality concept. I will define material term. All the terms I will only define because I know you don't know the definition. I mean, if I'll ask you what is the meaning of asset, can you say what is the meaning of asset? Anyone who can say the meaning of asset? Future inflow is an asset. Future inflow due to past event is an asset. It is not a complete definition. Correct? So I know what you know, what you don't know. Correct? But what am I asking? It means that too you should know. Even asset definition also you should know. Huh? In CA Inter everything was there. Accounting standard you have done. You have done almost all the accounting standard, na? So you should know the meaning of asset. Got? This can is a balance sheet. So I think from class 11 we are preparing balance sheet and that we are writing asset and liability. But if you are not able to answer the meaning of asset or liability, it means we don't know the balance sheet. It means we don't know the balance sheet. Am I right or not? Think the facts. Think about a fact. But I am not going to do that because I was also like you at this point of time. So when I have also passed CA Inter, I was also like you only. Correct? So I am not saying that you should know, but now you should know. In CA final, you should know everything. Got this point? Yes, sir. So what I was saying, materiality concept means what? They say that only the information which are material require disclosure. Any information which are immaterial for the user of financial statement does not require disclosure. Does not require proper disclosure. Understood? Means you can ignore it from the point of view of what? Disclosure. Correct? Means can I say AS and Indias apply only to material information? AS and Indias apply only to material item. It does not apply to immaterial item because that is not relevant for the user of financial statement to make relevant decisions. Correct? I am coming to your point. But what was the materiality concept? That only those information which are material should be considered for disclosure purpose. Correct? I am not saying about recording. We should record all the transaction. We should record all the transaction. But as per disclosure is concerned, only material information require proper disclosure. I will just give one very simple example. You know the definition of PP, property, plant and equipment? AS10? Any simple definition I am saying, proper definition so I will do. Any asset which are expected to be used for more than one accounting period. That is property, plant and equipment. This simple definition. Bola re? Now, I have a calculator. You have calculator? I have also calculator. Yeah, I have a calculator. But this is expected to be used for more than one accounting period or not? Whether it is PP, whether it is a property, plant and equipment. Now, what I am saying, one second, what I am asking, just say that. Whether it is a PP, yes. Yes, it meets the definition of PP. Try to answer that what I am asking. Whether it is PP, yes, it meets the definition of PP. But whether AS10 will be applicable? No. Because amount is rupees 300. It is immaterial for the, therefore we charge it to profit and loss account immediately as printing and stationery. It is nothing but stationery. But can I say it will meet the definition of PP or not? So it does not require application of AS10 or India 16 coming soon. This is the materiality. So can I say as per materiality concept, no treatment required for this? No treatment. So ignore it completely. Understood why we no treatment? Because it is not material. It is not material. Understood this point? It is not material. What is the meaning of material? I will discuss in Ind AS 1 coming soon. Meaning of material. Now, can you see as per percentage it become less than 50%, but more than what? 5%. We can see in this way. Possible obligation. Possible obligation. Now, whatever we have done till now, but whenever there is a present obligation, what we should do? Should we recognize provision or we should not recognize provision? Whenever there is a present obligation, should we recognize provision? Huh? Bolo? Should we recognize provision? Yes or no? Yeah, very good. There are two more conditions there. Means if you are saying yes, it means till now you have not understood. Present obligation does not mean that we should recognize provision. There are two more conditions. Means with this there are two more conditions. What are that two conditions? Batao. Outflow of resource. Outflow of, I am writing only outflow, and estimation. And estimation. If these two conditions are satisfied, then what Ind AS 37 says? Recognize provision. Understood? Yes, sir. It means there may be a chances when either this is not satisfied or this is not satisfied. Means there is no outflow of resources or reliable estimation cannot be made. Correct? So what Ind AS 37 says, in this case we should disclose it as what? Then in this case we should disclose it as what? Contingent liability. So now it will become contingent liability. Understood? And for possible obligation, Ind AS 37 always disclose it as what? Contingent liability. This is contingent liability. If you have understood this flow chart, you have understood this chapter. Correct? Can we derive definition of contingent liability from this? So can I say in this way? Contingent liabilities are present obligation arising from past event, which is not recognized because either outflow of resource is not probable or reliable estimation cannot be made, or it is a possible obligation arising from past event. This is contingent liability. Any rectification required? Any miss? No, if you have understood what I am saying, you can write in your own words now. One second, can you repeat? Contingent liabilities are present obligation arising from past event, which is not recognized. Why? Because either outflow of resource required to settle the obligation is not probable, or reliable estimation cannot be made, or it is a possible obligation arising from past event. Done. Contingent liability. Correct. If you know this, so you can answer any point now. Correct. So what is the definition given? Let us read. Meaning, contingent liabilities are present obligation from past event which cannot be recognized because either outflow of resource to settle the obligation is not probable or reliable estimation cannot be made, or it is nothing but possible obligation arising from past event. Correct. The existence of which will be confirmed by occurrence or non-occurrence of future uncertain event which is not within the control of entity. If you want to add this. But can I say, even though if you don't add, up to this is also correct. If you want to memorize entire definition, but up to this is the keyword. If you are not writing up to this, means you will not get marks. So can I say, if you want to memorize the entire definition, correct? So it is a present obligation arising from past event, which cannot be recognized. Why? Because outflow of resource required to settle the obligation is not probable, or reliable estimation cannot be made, or it is a present possible obligation arising from past event, the existence of which will be confirmed by the occurrence or non-occurrence of uncertain future event which is not within the control of entity. Done? Correct? Yes, sir. It means one thing we have understood, that if there is a contingent liability, no recognition, not recognized, only required disclosure where? In financial statement. When I say disclosure in financial statement, will you disclose in balance sheet? Will you disclose in SOPL? Will you disclose in cash flow statement? Will you disclose in notes to account? The notes to account is a part of what? Financial statement. So when I say financial statement, means in notes to account, so all disclosures are given where? In notes to account. Understood? Correct. So it will be disclosed in financial statement unless outflow of resource is removed. What is unless outflow of resource is removed? Means if outflow of resource is removed, then ignore it. Once again, immaterial. So if the outflow of resource is removed, then also no treatment required. Understood? Correct? Correct. If you have understood this much, just read this. Just read this. If you can answer this, it means you have understood. Summary. Read this. If any doubt, ask me. Means there are 3 points now: obligation, outflow resource, estimation. Have you understood? Means one thing you have understood, that if obligation is remote, no treatment. If outflow of resource remote, no treatment. This must be you understood now. Got this point? Have you understood the balance part? I think you have understood CA final, so you can understand anything. Teaching CA final is सबसे easy. The most difficult part is teach CA foundation student. Therefore, I don't teach what? CA foundation. Teaching CA final is very easy because whatever I will say, you will understand. And the doubt is what? 0%. Doubt is 0%. I don't know why doubt is not coming, but doubt will not be there. Chalo, theek hai. But let me ask one question, whether you have understood or not. Because sometimes when we read, we assume that we have understood, but it might happen we have not understood. So to understand whether you have understood or not, let me ask one question. Correct. Means if I'm not discussing about outflow you have understood. I'm discussing about estimation. Now if there is a present obligation, an estimation can be made. The estimation can be made, but the provision or contingent liability. There is a present obligation arising from past event. Outflow wala point you have understood. I am discussing about condition 1 and condition 2. Let's see, outflow condition is satisfied. Present obligation and estimation can be made, but the provision, contingent liability. Provision. Present obligation and estimation cannot be done. Pakka? Chalo, this also you have understood. Possible obligation, estimation can be made. Pakka? Last wala if you can say, means you have understood. Possible obligation and estimation cannot be made. Estimation cannot be made. Means you have understood. Means can I say, for contingent liability, even though estimation can't be made, you need to disclose the fact that yes, there is a contingent liability. Even though you don't know the amount. Even though you don't know the amount. Means can I say, whether estimation, whether estimated or not estimated? Very good. Means you have understood. Correct. Got this point? So we have understood provision meaning, we have understood contingent liability. Till now we have done meaning only. अभी measurement is left. ठीक है, we'll take 5 minute break, 10 minute break, 10 minute break. ठीक है, 10 minute break and then we'll meet again. Now, can we start, everyone? Okay. So before break, we were discussing about contingent liability. I hope you have understood the meaning of contingent liability. Okay, sir? Yes, sir. Now let us come to the contingent asset. Once we understood the meaning of contingent asset, then we can come to the other point of this chapter. Correct? Now, what is the meaning of contingent asset? Very simple. They have said contingent asset are possible asset. Possible asset arising from past event. Arising from past event. Very simple meaning. You can see contingent asset are possible asset arising from past event. So when I say asset, asset means we are discussing about inflow. Means expected inflow. Expected inflow. Now, if you see this definition, so now in the definition, there is no term like present asset. Means for obligation we discuss about present obligation, then possible obligation, then what? Remote obligation. Here we discuss only what? Possible asset. Means this asset or possible asset. Either it will be asset or possible asset. Understood? Correct? So when I say asset, means for asset, so there will be either asset. There is no present asset. There is no such term present asset. So don't be confused. Don't be confused. So either we'll call it asset or we call it what? Possible asset. We call it possible asset. Understood this point? Correct? Means inflow or possible inflow. If I say inflow or possible inflow. Understood this point? Arising from past event, then same thing, the existence of which will be confirmed by the occurrence or non-occurrence of uncertain future event which is not within the control of entity. The keyword is what? Possible asset arising from past event. Correct? Understood? Have you understood this point? Now, as per accounting treatment, what will be the accounting treatment? So what Ind AS 37 says that if the inflows are virtually certain, what is the meaning of virtually certain? Virtually certain means chances are more than 95%. Chances are more than 95%. So what Ind AS 37 says, as same thing is given in AS 29 also. Whenever inflows are virtually certain, means when the chances are more than 95%, then it is not a contingent asset, then it is an asset and recognize such asset. Recognize such asset. Understood? Then it shall not be treated as contingent asset, it shall be recognized as what? Asset. Understood? Correct. Let me take a very simple example which you know, which you all know. You know about credit sales? Know about credit sales? But the credit sales we do to known customer or unknown customer? Known customer. We'll never do credit sales to unknown customer, na? To known customer. Means we know about the financial capability of that person, therefore we give our credit. Now, so because of credit sale we have a debtor. Debtor. Now my question to you on initial recognition of that debtor, we need to ask two questions. Whether we should recognize it as an asset or we should not recognize it as an asset. Correct now. So my question to you all, whether inflow is probable. Yeah, inflow is certain. Whether inflow is certain. Whether inflow is certain. Are bolna yes or no? If I ask you one question, whether inflow is certain, yes or no? Yes. Now, inflow is certain, it is not possible. There may be chances of bad debt, we don't know right now. You can't say inflow is 100% certain. Now I have last second question, whether inflow is uncertain. Whether inflow is uncertain. Yes or no? If inflow is uncertain, then we will not do what? Credit sales only. Means can I say inflow is neither certain nor uncertain, but inflow are virtually certain. Yes or no? Inflows are virtually certain, and therefore from the beginning, from the bachpan, we are recognizing the debtor, as an asset. So very small, very, I will say small example I have given, which we are doing from the bachpan. Correct now. So I think this point you have understood. If it is virtually certain, then recognize it as asset. And if you are saying, sir, why we are recognizing, then I will say, then don't recognize any debtor. Then to rectify all your past balance sheet, whatever you have drawn. Yes or no? So can I say, I hope you have understood. So debtor, can you see the employee is virtual? VC means what? Virtually certain. VC means virtually certain. Understood? Correct? Correct. Yes. I'm coming to your doubt. If you have doubt. Okay. No doubt. Okay. Now inflows are probable. When I am saying inflows are probable, now in this case, it means it is less than 95% and more than 50%. Because more than 95% it becomes virtually certain. Okay? So even though it is a more than 50% but less than 95%. So when inflow is probable, so what Ind AS 37 says, it is a contingent asset. It is a contingent asset. Don't recognize it as a asset. Correct? Means no recognition, only disclosure. No recognition, only disclosure. So no asset is recognized. It become a contingent asset, disclosed. Now as per AS 29, ways to disclose contingent asset. Contingent asset as per AS 29. Where? In notes to account. In financial statement. In notes to account. As per AS 29. Now you have forgotten. As per AS 29, contingent assets are not disclosed in notes to account. Not in financial statement. They are disclosed in the report of approving authority. As per AS 29 I am saying. Not as per Ind AS 37. So AS 29 used to say disclose contingent asset in the report of approving authority. What is the meaning of report of approving authority? Director's report. Which report you are saying? Huh? Management report. Okay, director's report. Yes. Director's report and management report are same only. Director's report. So in the director's report, my question to you are whether director's report is a part of financial statement. Whether auditor will audit director's report. Can you say AS and Ind AS are not for director's report? Okay, that is not a correct point only. So AS 29 was not correct as regard that point. If you want to disclose we can disclose anything in director's report. We can disclose anything in director's report. So can I say that has been corrected under Ind AS 37, and now Ind AS 37 says that contingent asset also require disclosure where? In financial statement, that is notes to account. This becomes the second difference between AS 29 and Ind AS 37. Understood? So as per AS 29 in the report of approving authority, as per Ind AS 37 in notes to account. Correct? Yes, sir. So disclose it in financial statement, that is notes to account. So whether that difference is in our syllabus. Now actually from my point of difference should not be asked in exam, because AS are not in our syllabus. Only there are 4 AS which has been given in syllabus. 4 AS means they have given in the syllabus only. AS 7, AS 9, AS 22 and AS 19. So these 4 AS will discuss with respective Ind AS. Apart from that, no AS has been mentioned in the part of syllabus. But when you read the ICAI study material, they have given difference also. Now they have given difference, so it means they can ask. They can ask or not. Means they have not included as a part of syllabus, but in ICAI study material they have given difference of each accounting standard with Ind AS. So scope is not there, but with MCQs they can ask anything with multiple choice question. So whether they will ask or they will not ask, that I don't know, but chances are remote. Chances are remote. But you can't say no entry. You can't say no entry. Therefore, I am discussing, and this is a very simple point which you can retain also. Which you can retain now. Okay. All differences are given also as a part of this Saran's book. You can see. Whenever you are doing revision, you can read it. You can read it. Okay. Got this point? Yes, sir. Coming to this point. So you have understood, whenever it is probable, then don't recognize it as an asset, only disclose it as what? Contingent asset in notes to account. But if it is not probable means chances are less than 50%, then no treatment. No treatment. Can I say not probable will also include remote? Not probable will also include remote. Means can I say with this discussion, Ind AS is more strict for contingent asset, for recognition or disclosure of contingent asset. It means due to which principle? Conservatism principle. Due to conservatism principle. If I give a summary of inflow and outflow, बताओ. If I am saying 100%, it is a liability, it is an asset. 100% certain, it is a liability, it is an asset. When I am saying more than 95%, so virtual certain. However, this virtual certain has not been used in provision. They have said only probable and not probable. Correct now. But if I say virtual certain, so can I say it is probable only? Then a provision is required with an estimation. Provision is required with an estimate. The provision is a liability only, na? Liability. And in this it is an asset. Now, when I am saying more than 50%, so it is probable. So it is provision liability, but it become contingent asset. And when I am saying this not probable means less than 50%. So here it is contingent liability, but here no treatment. And less than 5% to remote. Remote means what? No treatment. Means for inflow, Ind AS is more strict due to conservatism principle. Contingent asset also done. So now we have understood the meaning of contingent liability, contingent asset and provision for the first time in our life. Proper definition. Now any question asked, you can answer if you have understood this entire definition. Correct. Now coming to the next point, measurement of provision and contingent liability. Understood? Measurement of provision. Of course, we have understood that provision require measurement, require estimation. But how to estimate? Very simple from exam point of view. In exam point of view, if I do 2 question, game is over. Correct? Only 2 question is required, and from that 2 question only question may be created. Okay? But let us understand what is the meaning of estimation. Whenever we say estimation, so reliable estimation. Reliable means best estimate. So we require best estimate of what? Of expenditure. But which expenditure? Future expenditure or past expenditure? Future expenditure. Expenditure required to settle the obligation at the end of reporting date. At the end of reporting date. At the end of reporting date. Understood? Correct. Let me ask you one question, everyone. Apply your common sense. Suppose this is the reporting date. Apply your common sense. Reporting date 31st March 2023. And we have done one estimation that after 5 years, we have estimated. See, after 5 years. 5 years is also an estimation timing of payment. And 10 lakh is also estimation, amount of estimation. So suppose there is some legal obligation, and because of legal obligation we have estimated that after 5 years we need to pay 10 lakh compensation to some party. 10 lakh compensation to some party. This is all our estimation. My question to you all, on this date, what amount of provision should be created? How much amount? Apply your common sense, because you have done C enter. So I just want to ask based on that. You have done FM, apply FM concept. I have given hint. We should recognize how much provision? Discounted value. That only have. Because can I say discounted value? Discounted value na? Discounted value means what? Present value. Present value of future expenditure. Present value of future expenditure. So what they have said, if you read the sentence carefully, best estimate of expenditure required to settle the obligation at the end of reporting date. Means if such expenditure is settled today, how much amount is required to be paid. So that is not future value, that is present value. Understood this point? However, AS 29 says what? Discounted or undiscounted amount? You have done AS 29, you have never discounted, huh? So it is undiscounted amount. Third difference. Third difference. Understood? AS29 is what? Undiscounted. Ind AS 37 says what? Discounted amount, means present value. Means what they want to say? The amount of provision shall be present value of expenditure if the effect of time value of money is material. If the effect of time value of money is material. Of course, if the time value of money is immaterial, we can ignore it. We can ignore it. Understood? Normally, when I say normally from exam point of view or from practical point of view, if any amount is payable within 12 months, so what we say? The time value of money is material or immaterial? Immaterial. But if the amount is payable after 12 months, the time value of money become what? Material. But it has not been defined. It is also a matter of judgment. Matter of judgment. Means after 6 months also it can be material. It can be material. Understood? So I am just giving one point that suppose they have given this type of question, or I will not write from exam point of view, the rate of discount is given, always discount. The rate of discount is given, always discount. Correct? So if I will write now, sometime you will be also confused, don't write. If the time value of money is material, so of course from exam point of view, discount rate is given, will discount it. Will discount it now. Got this point? Yes, sir. So this you have understood. Now, sir, how to make such best estimate? So what is the meaning of best estimate? So what Ind AS 37 says that whatever estimation you are doing that are determined as per management judgment. Means always rely on what? Always rely on what? Management judgment. Means whatever judgment given by management, that become principal point for best estimate. Because they only know their business. We auditor only need to check the evidence. Check the evidence now. So what Ind AS 37 says, the estimation are determined by the management judgment, which should be supported by what? Supported by following evidence. We should be supported by one or more following evidence. Understood? So what can be the evidence? Can you say past similar transaction? Past similar transaction. So it should be supported by experience of past transactions. For example, I have already announced today that any student who score 80 or more than 80, I will refund 50% of fees. Now, as per my past batches, I will find out how many students have scored that much marks. Suppose the probability based on that is 50, not 50%, correct. 10% student have scored 80 or more than 80, correct. 10% student. Now, in this batch, I will count the number and I will calculate 10% student. 10% student multiplied by the 50% fee will become the best estimate of that expenditure. Understood? Correct. So it is based on what? Experience of past transaction or report of an expert, or consult any expert, whoever is expert in that field. For example, if the legal case is pending, so we'll decide based on the opinion given by lawyer. We'll decide based on the opinion given by legal expert. Correct. So based on expert, or any additional evidence provided by event occurring after reporting date. Which accounting standard? Any additional evidence provided by event occurring after reporting date. Which accounting standard? AS4. Now it become Ind AS 10. So refer Ind AS 10. So this third point I will discuss under Ind AS 10. Next chapter is Ind AS 10 only after this. So third point I will explain not now. We will discuss as per Ind AS 10. But first point, second point you have understood. Third point we will discuss under next chapter. Chalega. Means simple word, as per management judgment supported by following evidence. This all information will be given in the question only. Now how to measure, that we need to understand. So for how to measure, this point is important from examination point of view. This point is important from examination point of view. So what Ind AS says that when the obligation involves large population, means when I have announced that statement of refund, so it is for one student or large student. Large student means the obligation involves large population. Now can I do one-to-one relationship? One-to-one? I can't do one-to-one measurement now. This student how much? This student how much? This student. It is not possible. Practically impossible. Practically impossible. In that case, what Ind AS 37 says, that determine expected value of obligation, which is nothing but weighted average of all possible outcomes. Weighted average of all possible outcomes. Understood? Correct. Let me take one question. a book, otherwise you will think the sir is not taking any question from book. Can I take one question from book? You will understand what is given. You have received book? You have received books? If you have not received, then refer what? Whiteboard. Come to question number. Question number 5. An entity sells goods with warranty under which, you know warranty? You know warranty? Warranty, you know? Okay. Under which customer are covered for the cost of repair of manufacturing defect that become apparent within the first 6 months after purchase. Means any defect which will be observed within 6 months of the purchase, then they will provide some warranty services. Means they will change the or replace the goods, or they will provide some repair services. Correct? If minor defect were detected in all the products sold, repair cost of 1 million would result. Means for minor defect, what is the outflow? 1 million. It is given in the question. Means they will provide all the information. We are not supposed to estimate because we are not expert in estimation. Correct? That estimation will be done by management or any expert. Will do accounting. Will do accounting now. If the major defect were detected in all the products sold, repair cost of 4 million would result. The entity's past experience, understood, past experience and future expectation indicate that for the coming years, 75% of goods sold will have no defect, 20% of goods sold will have minor defect, and 5% of goods sold will have major defect. Assess the probability of outflow for warranty obligation as a whole. But what will do? We'll calculate weighted average of all possible outcomes. So what you'll do? 75% into nil because no outflow. Correct. Then plus what will do? 20% of what? Minor defect is what? 1 million. 1 million is 10 lakh. Or you can add on 1 million only. 1 million plus 5% of major defect. 5% of what? 4 million. This is the answer. You have calculator. You can calculate this. Correct. Means answer become what? 4 lakh. This is the amount of provision. Now in this question rate of discount is not given. Can you discount it? In this question rate of discount is not given. Can you discount it? So it will assume time value of money is not material. And you can see they have given also after first 6 months. It means time value of money is not material. But if rate of discount is given, always discount from exam point of view. So this become the amount of provision. This become the amount of provision. Understood? I hope you have understood with this what is the meaning of weighted average of all possible outcomes. That is known as expected value of obligation. This is the key term. Means in exam always write down the provision is equal to expected value of obligation, which is equal to weighted average of all possible outcomes. This much you should write down in exam. Then calculate it. Then calculate it. Means when you are writing this word now, they will understand you have read Ind AS 37. You have read Ind AS 37. So it become best answer. It become best answer. But it's mine. Now when there is a single obligation with two possible outcomes, means when there are only two possible outcomes, here is the average, weighted average. Normally when we do average, yeah, simple average or weighted average, whatever. When we do, whenever there are two or more than two items. Normally, if you have done mean, median, mode, statistics, correct now. So what they are saying, whenever there are only two possible outcomes, let me take one example. Suppose one legal case is pending. Legal case is pending in front of High Court. Correct? So let us assume all the conditions satisfied. There is a present obligation arising from the past event, outflow of resources probable, and reliable estimation can be made. So of course provision should be recognized. Now what is that amount that we need to understand? Now as per the lawyer opinion, they are of the view that it will result in a high damages damages of rupees 10 lakh, or it may result in low damages of rupees 2 lakh. Are you able to understand? There may be two possible outcomes, high damages or low damages. Now chances of these is 20% and chances of this is 80%. So you can see there is only single obligation, single item, one case. Understood what I am saying? And two possible outcome. So whenever there is a two possible outcome, Ind AS 37 says take most likely outcome. What is the most likely outcome? 80%. So the amount of provision, this become most likely amount, outcome, most likely outcome, and therefore amount of provision, you will not do 80% of 2 lakh, you will not do 80% 2 lakh, your answer will become what? 2 lakh. And if the time value of money is material, then we'll do what? Discounting. If the rate of discount is given, discount it as per the number of year given. And discounting, we know we are expert in discounting, that I am not teaching you. That is not my game to teach you discounting. Understood? Correct. Normally student will do 80% 2 lakh. Be careful. It is not 80% 2 lakh. It is what? 2 lakh. Most likely amount. Most likely outcome. Got this point? Same. I will just give you one more example. The same example, the legal case is pending. Now as per lawyer, they say, now they have given three outcomes. The high damages, low damages and no damages. So it becomes three outcomes. Understood now? Now suppose they say 20%, 60% and 20%, quite possible. Quite possible. This is how much? 10 lakh. This is how much? 2 lakh. This is how much? Nil. Now what is your answer? Now what is your answer? 2 lakh. No. Now we can't do it. There is no two possible outcome. There are more than two possible outcomes. Now apply what? Weighted average. Now apply weighted average. Understood? Life is not so easy, huh? Concentrate. Simple question will become complicated if you forget one point. If you forgot one point. Correct? So one question is complicated not because the question is complicated. The question become complicated because we don't know the answer. Are you getting what I am saying? One question was asked in exam as from AS to Ind AS to with the AS to the inventory we are doing from bachpan. The inventory what I will teach? You can teach me inventory, yes or no? As per Ind AS 2 is concerned, what I will teach? Inventory, the foundation level, so you are doing inventory, cost, price, NRV, which are low. One question was asked, nobody has given the correct answer. Why? Because ICAI know what you know, what you don't know. So they will ask that question only. So if you don't know, that question is complicated. And if you know, the question is easy. Means no question paper is complicated. No question paper easy. The point is that whether you know or whether you don't know. Understood? Correct? Every question paper is complicated for the student who is writing exam. And every question paper is easy for the student who is not writing exam. You know why? Because those who are not writing exam, they have the answer. Arre, this question though I know. They have the answer. They are not writing it. They are only observing. Arre, this is a simple question. But when you are writing, you think. Got this point? Yes, sir. So in this what? Expected value of obligation will be what? 20% of 10 lakh plus 60% of 2 lakh. In exam also write on 20% nil. Be student. Don't be chartered accountant in exam. Because you need to write exam for explanation purpose. You can't ignore 20% nil. I also know you also need to 0, but then also write. Because you are writing for explanation purpose. Got this point? Now you can calculate because you have calculator. Calculation is easy. What is the answer? 2 point? 3.2 lakh. Means 3,20,000. This is the answer. Now once again, discount rate is given, we'll discount it. That we can do. If not given, we'll ignore it. Got this point? Yes, sir. So this also you have understood. Can I say this you have understood? Till now, no question of this nature has been given in ICAI material. No question. When there is a single obligation, they have not created any question of this nature in ICAI study material. Means they have given only one question of this nature, and that only they ask. That is minor defect, major defect. And that question will be only repeated. I also know. Correct? Yes, sir. Okay. No, this all are general point. I hope explanation is not required. You can understand. Provision should be measured before tax. Before tax means what? Without deducting tax. After tax means what? Net of tax. So, but the provision should be charged to PL account before tax or after tax? Before tax, because it is charged before tax. This is understood point now. Only they are just giving clarification for this. Discount rate should be pre-tax or post-tax. Pre-tax, the provision is before tax, so discount rate should be also pre-tax. Now suppose they have not yet confused till now in exam. Suppose they have given two discount rate, pre-tax and post-tax. Then in exam it becomes difficult question. If you are not looking this point, so it is a pre-tax rate. Pre-tax rate. Okay. This point number 4 is a very simple point. Gain from expected sale of asset shall not be taken into account for measurement of provision. The gain on sale of asset is covered under Ind AS 16 coming soon. It is not covered in this chapter. For example, just try to understand. I am just giving one example so that you can relate. You can relate. Now suppose this camera, no, this camera, not my class register. Suppose some other building, some other faculty is taking the classes and that camera got damaged. Sometimes whatever we say, that happened. Isliye we should always say positive things. Always positive. But the CA is complicated or easy? Easy. Easy. You will become or you will not become CA? In first attempt or last attempt? Your last attempt is only first attempt. Understood? Whatever you say, normally that only you become. And this is my experience of my life. Initially, when I become CA, I was also like you, there was no one to guide me. With experience, I have understood many things in my life. Initially, I was also very much conservative. Conservative means always think negative about others and about myself. I can't do, I can't do, I can't do. Then eventually what happened? I can't do. Understood now? It actually, I have taken 4 years after becoming CA to understand and always say, yes, I can. I can. And after 4 years, my life changed. Because then I have understood what I should do, what I should not do. So always say positive about yourself. I always say that I am the best teacher, even though one student is in my classroom. I am the best. I am the best. I am not worried about the environment. I am not worried about environment. I am the best teacher. I know this fact. You should also know this fact. I am the best teacher. And I can challenge any teacher. Any teacher. Open challenge. But can I say, I am not saying this. I am saying this to you that I am the best teacher to motivate myself. I am not going to prove anyone. To motivate myself. In class also I will say many times I am the best teacher to motivate myself. So you need to also say that you are the best student, you are the best CA to motivate yourself. Got this point? Yes, sir. So gain. So what I was saying that camera damage. So repair expenditure is required, and can I say this arises due to past event and expected repair expense. The provision need to be recognized. The provision for repair is required, but it is quite possible that you may sell some of the part of the asset. Means some part got damaged and that can't be used. Now when you sell that part, there will be some gain on sale of the asset. So should we deduct gain on sale of asset to recognize provision? No. The gain on sale should not be deducted to recognize provision. Provision means what? Only expenditure which is going to be incurred in future to settle that obligation. So gain on sale, gain from expected sale of the asset shall not be taken into account for measurement of provision. Very, very important. It can be asked in exam. Got this point? Yes, sir. Risk and uncertainty. This is a topic, I will say, which you need to understand for us theoretically, because I can't create a practical case study here. Just try to understand. Whatever amount we are measuring right now, that is based on past experience, past transaction. Means normally we think about what happened in past. Correct? So based on past experience, you have calculated one amount. But can a future can be different? Means whatever you have estimated, that might be different from actual because of future uncertainties and risk. Because of future uncertainties and risk. It means, can I say whatever you have calculated, it should be adjusted with future uncertainties and risk or not? Have you understood this point? So whatever you have estimated right now, that is based on past experience. That is as per past transaction, but future might be different. So what India 37 says that if it is surrounded by future uncertainties and risk, so that adjustment is also required to calculate the amount of provision. Let me take a very simple example. Abhi we have done major defect, minor defect. I'm once again writing that example. Suppose total units sold is 1 lakh. And as per the past experience, 60% no defect, 40% minor defect, and 20%. This is 30%. This is 10%. This become major defect. Understood? Now, as per the past experience, we have understood that in this nil outflow, in this suppose 200 rupees, and in this suppose 500 rupees per unit. Understood? Correct. This is the information given. Now, based on this information, you will calculate expected value. What is the expected value? Is equal to 1 lakh into 60% into nil. 1 lakh into 30% into 200. 1 lakh into 10% into 500. What is the answer coming? Nil. This is how much? This is how much? 60 lakh, na? 60 lakh. It is 50 lakh. And the answer become what? 110 lakhs. This you can calculate. But in this case, if we have not done any adjustment for future risk and uncertainties. Understood? So what India 37 says that if there is some risk and uncertainties, that your estimated amount may be different from actual amount, so some adjustment is required. This adjustment can be done in 3 ways. So that adjustment, I am just informing how that adjustment can be done. Either increase the outflow, either increase the expected outflow. This can be one adjustment. Or increase the expected value. Increase the expected value directly. Means whatever 11 lakh you have calculated. Correct? Let us assume 10% is the discount rate. And it is payable after 1 year. So can you give me the discounted amount? 0.909 na? Is equal to how much? 99 lakh 99,000. Correct? Understood? Means either you will increase this outflow, one adjustment, or calculate expected value, increase that expected value before discounting. or do adjustment where? In discount rate. Do adjustment in discount rate. Understood? There are three ways. Either increase what? Either adjust what? Expected outflow, or adjust what? Expected value, or adjust what? Discount rate. Not all three, huh? Either I am saying. Okay. Now my question to you all, discount, when I am saying adjust the discount rate, understood? Are you able to understand? So you will increase the discount rate or you will decrease the discount rate? You will increase the discount rate or decrease the discount rate? When you will increase the discount rate, your present value will increase or decrease? Your present value will increase or decrease? Your present value will decrease, na? Your present value will decrease, but you should increase it, na? It means that adjustment should be what? Decrease the discount rate. That adjustment. Now, can I say all this information will be given in the question? Only you need to work out. That is known as risk and uncertainty. Means from exam point of view, even though I don't teach, you will be able to understand from the information given in the question. They will say increase this expected outflow by 10%. You can increase. You will say, they will say increase this 1 crore 10 lakh by 5%. You can increase that. So that will depend upon the information given the question. Therefore, this para is not important, so much important from exam point of view. Even though you have forgotten, you can do it in exam. But how? Now from MCQ's point of view, this might be important. So because of MCQs, this all paras now become important, which I don't used to focus so much in the old scheme. In the old scheme, since I was knowing this para is not so much important from exam point of view, but now that every para become important. Every para become important. So can I overlook? Can I avoid? No. Understood? Let us read. The risk and uncertainties that surround many events and circumstances shall be taken into account in reaching the best estimate of a provision. First para you understood. Second, a risk adjustment should be made for the amount that entity would pay in excess of expected present value of outflow due to uncertainty attached with the actual outcome. Means whatever you are paying in excess of expected value, whatever you have recognized, that is known as what? Adjustment is required for that. Risk adjustment can be accounted for in number of ways. This might be important from exam point of view. Either by adding to his expected present value of future outflow. Understood? Either add to the present value directly or adjusting the estimate of future outflow. Estimate of future outflow or adjusting the discount rate. Normally in exam, always they give you risk adjusted discount rate. They will say risk adjusted discount rate is 10%. It means thank you very much. If they have given risk adjusted discount rate, so thank you very much, na? Means already adjusted. So normally in exam they will give you adjusted discount rate. We'll apply that only. Apply that only. Understood? Have you understood this point? Suppose they have given discount rate and risk adjusted discount rate. So what you will take? Risk adjusted discount rate. Till now that type of question has not been asked. Simple? Yes sir. One very simple question has been given in ICAI study material. What is that question? Let me do that question. Yeah, this question. Not this question. Sure, I'll take after some time. Okay, I'll take one question is there, very simple question. Now, up to this, all the points which are related to India 37 is over. Now there are 4 special points. That 4 special points you can answer if you have understood the concept. Understood? One is reimbursement, first point. Second is future operating loss. Third is executory contract and onerous contract. And the last one is restructuring. Restructuring. There are 4 special points. And all these 4 special points is important from exam point of view. Means if I say at CA final level, so at CA final level they should ask this question. Because AS29 was in CA inter also. So I will give you one case study, you need to answer. Now you need to answer. Because you have understood what? In day 37. The first topic is reimbursement. So I'll just give you one example. You'll say what need to be done. Reimbursement. I think the topic you have understood. Reimbursement means what? Whatever expenditure is required to settle in future, that will be reimbursed by third party. Third party can be insurance company, it can be director, it can be any other party. Have you understood? Correct? The point you have understood means, suppose this is the balance sheet date, 31st March, and there is some legal case going on. As per legal case, as per the lawyer, 10 lakh is the outflow required. But this case is because of the fraud done by one of the director. So director has committed, and it is virtually certain, I am using the word it is virtually certain, that it will be reimbursed by whom? Reimbursed by director. Are you able to understand the topic? Now the first question is, should we recognize a provision of 10 lakh? Yes or no? Yes, very good. Yes, we should recognize a provision, because provision is separate and reimbursement is separate. Because this is an expenditure which need to be settled by entity. So reimbursement is separate contract. Reimbursement is separate contract. Understood? If you are saying yes, means okay, 100% correct. We should create a provision of 10 lakh. Means we are not discussing here about provision. Provision to should be recognized. 10 lakh. All the conditions satisfied. Now the question is that what will do about reimbursement? What will do about reimbursement? Bata. Asset. Why? 100% correct. Can you see it is a possible inflow? And is virtually certain, then recognized as a separate asset. So what Ind AS 37? Can you see you have understood by So whether my help is required? Now my help is not required. Once you have understood Ind AS 37, apply the content and answer it. There can be n number of questions. Means I can create 1 lakh question right now. But whether it is possible to teach you 1 lakh question? So I will teach you concept or question? Concept. If you understood concept, any question you can do. For practicing, there are many questions given. Once you understood Ind AS 37, read all the question, and if you are able to answer, means you have understood. You have understood that chapter, correct? So what Ind AS 37 says, very simple. Now we can come to the topic. What Ind AS 37 says that whenever there is an expenditure required to settle the obligation, and it is expected to be reimbursed by third party. It is expected to be reimbursed by third party. This third party can be insurance company also. This third party can be insurance company also. Got this point? Correct. Then reimbursement, if it is virtually certain, correct. Then recognize reimbursement as a separate asset in balance sheet. So it will be recognized as separate asset in balance sheet. Correct. So can we set up that provision amount and separate reimbursement asset and write down net amount in the balance sheet? Suppose 10 lakh is what? Provision, and reimbursement asset is 9 lakh. Let us assume. So can we write down 1 lakh in balance sheet? No, it is a separate asset in balance sheet. So separate asset means, can I say, we cannot be set off with what? Provision. Where? In balance sheet. Understood? Cannot be set off. So it should be recognized as separate asset in balance sheet. Now in SOPL, what Ind AS 37 net amount will be recognized as an expense. So in balance sheet, net amount will be recognized as an expense. Means suppose the provision is 10 lakh and reimbursement asset is 9 lakh. So 1 lakh will be expense in where? In SOPL. So in SOPL, net amount will be shown as a expense. As a expense. So such amount is set off against the provision and net amount is shown in PL, profit and loss. Understood? Not in balance sheet. Not in balance sheet. Okay. Understood? Correct. Now there is one general question. Can we recognize a reimbursement asset at an amount more than provision? No. Understood? Fine. That is against conservatism. And no one will reimburse more than actual outflow. Correct? Yes, sir. So amount recognized as a reimbursement asset should not exceed the amount of provision. Correct? Now, reimbursement, if it is not virtually certain, so it can be either probable or not probable. It can be either probable or not probable. If probable, then what will do? Huh? Then disclose it as contingent asset. Not probable means what? No treatment, no treatment. Correct? So is not virtually certain, not recognized as an asset. However, if the employee is probable, expected reimbursement should be disclosed in the notes to account as contingent asset. As contingent asset. Done. Simple. Any doubt? No doubt. Correct. Question 9. X Beauty Solution Limited is selling a cosmetic product under its brand name B, but it is getting its product manufactured from Y Limited. Okay, sir. Correct. It has an understanding with Y Limited that if the company become liable for any damages due to any injury or harm to the customer of cosmetic product, 30% will be reimbursed to Y Limited. But the understanding means what? Understanding means what? It is a contract, it is not a contract. Understand, because it can be oral contract also, na? It can be orally also. So it means, can I say it means it is a contract which is committed by both the party? Yes or no? Understanding means what? You have an understanding, even though we have not done any contract, but you have understanding that I will teach as per ICAI or not. If I am not teaching as per ICAI, you have a right to file a case against me. You know this fact? Yes, you have a right now. If I am not teaching as per ICAI syllabus, you have a right to file a case against me or not? Yes, bolo yes. Yes, now you are a CS student. Bolo yes, but you don't file, huh, please. Correct? Don't file. I will teach as per ICAI only. But you have a right to sue against me. Got this point? Yes, sir. During the financial year 2001-2002, a claim of 30 lakh demanded by the customer from X Beauty Solution Limited. How should X Beauty Solution Limited account for the claim that become payable? But how much provision is required? How much provision is required? 30 lakh. The entire, it is demanded na 30 lakh. That is the best estimate. We'll assume that this is only the best estimate from the information given in the question. Correct? Then what will be the amount of reimbursement asset? 30% of 30 lakh means how much? So what amount will be shown in the balance sheet? Wrong. No. Abhi what I said, what amount will be shown in the balance sheet? If you said 21 lakh means you are emotionally affected. Emotionally affected. In exam we should control the emotions. Otherwise we'll get motions. Understood? Correct? That emotions we need to control in exam hall. That 3 hour is very important. That 3 hour. And normally what happens with, we have actually, our surrounding has so much expectation from us now. Our relatives, our friends, unknown people have so much expectation from us. They think that we'll pass only. And because of that expectation, sometimes we lose our emotional control in exam. That we need to understand. This is our exam, enjoy it. And if you are emotionally, if you are weak, then you will not be able to control your emotions. Understood? So what I'm asking, think and say. We always say think and then say. This is the best quality of a chartered accountant. If you ask your principal, you go to your principal, you are going to your office, you ask any question of Indians, they don't know anything. Your principal don't know anything about Indians, I know. You also know. But you ask him, sir, what is the treatment of this? He will never say, no, I don't know. He will say, give me one day, I will let you know. I am busy right now. And then he will read. And then he will answer. This is the best quality of CA. CA never say no. But CA will take time and answer the correct point. So you also take your time and then answer. There is nothing to hurry. Got this point. 1 second. What I have asked, what amount you shown, you disclose in balance sheet. So separate provision, separate asset. 30 lakh and 9 lakh. What amount will come in PL? 21 lakh. Net amount will be shown as an expense. This become the best answer. This the same answer is given. Can you see it is virtually certain? From this contract it is under virtually certain. That point virtually certain, that term also you need to use in exam. So this shows that this is virtually certain. One more question. You remember AS4, then only I will take that question. Event occurring after balance sheet date. That's so you know. Event occurring after balance sheet date, adjusting and non-adjusting. Can I take that question because it is a combination of what? Ind AS 37 and Ind AS 10. Coming soon. After that Ind AS 10 I will teach, or I will defer it. I can take now. Chalo. I like those type of students who always say yes sir. That shows that you are confident. But where is that question? Yeah, very good question. 27. I like this question. Till now not asked in exam. Write on MRQ. MRQ means what? Must revise question before exam. There are some questions which you need to identify that question need to be revised before exam. Why? Because that question as it is will come in exam, and just before if you have read it, so can you see you are not supposed to read it before exam, during exam, you save some time now. Correct? So you need to identify which are the questions you are not able to answer properly. That question need to be revised properly before exam. Some question I will identify, some question you need to identify and write on MRQ. So in the last revision, that question become only the question which require revision. Understood? So some question I will identify, but I don't know your capability na. I don't know your capability. From your point of view, there are some other question which might require attention. During the year QA Limited delivered, can I take this question? 5 minutes extra? Yes, sir. Delivered manufactured product to customer K. The product were faulty and on 1st October 2016, the customer K commenced legal action against the company claiming damages in respect of losses due to supply of faulty product. Means who has filed a case against whom? Customer K has filed against the entity. We are doing this question from entity's point of view, QA Limited point of view. Upon investigating the matter, QA Limited discovered that products were faulty due to defective raw material purchased from supplier F. Therefore, on 1st December 2016, the company commenced legal action against F, claiming damages in respect of the supply of defective raw material. Now, who has filed a case against whom? Company has filed. QA Limited has estimated that its probability of success of both legal action, the action of K against QA Limited and action of QA Limited against F is very high. Probability of success of K against QA Limited is very high. Means probability of loss is very high. And probability of action of QA against F is very high. Means probability of win is very high. So one is inflow, one is outflow. Understood this point? Correct? Now, on 1st October 2016, QA Limited has estimated the damages it would have to pay K would be 5 crore. The estimate was revised to 5.2 crore on 31st March 2017 and 5.25 crore as at 31st March 2017. This case was eventually settled on 1st June 2017 when the company paid damages of 5.3 crore to KL Limited. Oh my god, so much information. Oh, ho, ho. Whenever this type of information comes, na, smart work is what? Smart work. When you read question, draw timeline. The best way to understand a question, it will not take more than 30 seconds extra. But with that 30 seconds or 1 minute, you can save 5 minutes for understanding the question. Correct? So just draw the timeline. What is the date given, bata? First date. First date is what? First October 2016. What is the amount? 5 crore. Then 31st March 2006. This is the what amount? 5.2. Then what? 15 May. What is the amount? 5.25. Then this is actual settlement date. What is the amount? 5.30 crore. Okay. This is the date of filing the case. This is the reporting date. We don't know about these two dates right now because we have not completed a question. We need to complete it. Okay. Then what is given? On 1st December 2016. This was for outflow. This is for inflow. QA Limited estimated it would receive damages of 3.5 crore from F. The estimate was revised to 3.6 crore on 31st March and 3.7 crore as on 15 May. This case was eventually settled on 1st June when the F paid 3.75 crore to QA Limited. Can you give me? 1st December. 1st December how much? 3.5. Then 3.6. Then 3.75. Understood? Correct. Now what is given? QA Limited in his financial statement for the year ended 31st March 2017 provided rupees 3.6 crore as the financial statement were approved by Board of Directors on 26 April. So what is the date of approval? 26 April. So 26 April will come here some here 26 April. This is the date of approval. Now your turn. You need to answer. Have you understood the entire question? They have asked two questions. Whether the company is required to make provision. If answer yes, then what will be journal entry? And what will be the accounting treatment of the action of QA Limited against supplier F? Means about reimbursement. So again, this is a point of reimbursement. This is a point of provision. Understood this point? Batao. Whether they should create a provision. Yes. All the conditions satisfied. Present obligation arising from past event. Outflow of resources probable and reliable estimation can be made. This you should write down this all three conditions. Yes, provision should be created, but with what amount? 5.2 crore? Because these two are not. This is the after approval. AS4 is not applicable only. So AS4 is applicable only when the event occur before approval of financial statement. So can I say we should estimate based on 31st March, not based on this date. So we are preparing financial statement 31st March. So your answer is 5.2, 100% correct. Lollipop question. Such a big question I have written MRQ. But lollipop question or not. Why I have written MRQ? Sometimes same to same question will come. You will save time of reading in exam. Otherwise reading will take 50 minutes in exam. Yes or no? So once you are this to we know. Answer karo. Got this point? Correct. Now second question is what will be journal entry? Journal entry will be PL account debit to what? Provision for legal damages. Provision for legal damages. So what they have given? They have given some options. So what will be journal entry? Batao. 5.2 karo na. So statement of PL. Of course current liability because it is payable within 12 months. So this is nothing but provision. Provision is a current liability. So A is only correct. A is only correct. Now should we create a reimbursement asset? Should we create a reimbursement asset? Yes or no? Means reimbursement asset or contingent asset? Asset or contingent asset? But whether it is virtually certain? No. Winning rate is high. High does not means virtually certain. High. Not more than 95%. Correct na? High means it is probable. High means what? Probable. But it does not mean it is virtually certain na. The question has not specified anything about virtually certain means no asset. It may be disclosed as what? Contingent asset. So there is no evidence of virtual certainty. Therefore you can't recognize as a asset. This term you write down, you will get full marks. So what answer they have given? Let us see. What answer? As per India's 37, this para you are not supposed to write in exam. QA Limited shall not recognize a contingent asset. Shall not recognize? Bolo asset na. They don't know how to write down the answer. Shall not recognize asset or contingent asset? Asset na. We never recognize contingent asset. I think the person who has drafted it does not have knowledge about English. But we recognize asset or contingent asset? So will not recognize asset. Here the probability of success of legal action is very high, but no concrete evidence which makes the info virtually certain is given. Hence it will be considered as contingent asset only and shall not be recognized. Understood. This type of question will come. What do you think? Should I do n number of questions from this reimbursement? Now I don't know which question will come in exam. It can be totally new question. You'll say, are out of syllabus. Even normally what I have seen, I'll take only 2 minutes extra. Correct. Whenever new questions come now in exam, as it happens in the last attempt, either student start giving excuses. What is excuses? Question paper is lengthy. First excuse. Second, new question came. Third, question paper was complicated. But it was complicated for everyone. You are exception to this. You are exception. The question paper for everyone na. You are not exception. These are all excuses. All excuses. I will say worst paper come. Worst to all question you don't know. Then also you need to pass. This is the only na point. Worst paper come. All question out of book. Then also you need to pass na. Am I right or not? Whether these excuses are good. So I will say go to exam hall with a mindset that all question is going to come from outside. Can I say you will not be affected emotionally in exam hall? Yes or no? If you are saying question should come from book, the first question will be out of book. You will die. And this happened. This time this happened. The consolidation question 20 marks, a new question they have created. New question means some adjustment they have given new, which we have not done in class. Surrendered. Surrendered. Understood? Maximum students surrendered. And then few more questions were new, died. Died. Morally died. Now AFM was very easy, suppose super hard. AFM AFM is next paper. That will be also suffered. Student will check your mental what ability. We are not here to check your conceptual, means your what knowledge. Because can I say once you pass CA enter, you can do anything. Can you handle the pressure of the life? That point they will check. Can you handle that difficult situation? Because all CA works in difficult situations. All CA, you know the due date, 1000 files are pending. Due date. You need to file 1000 files written in the last date. That is a pressure, na? That pressure can you handle? And can you file all the written correctly? That they want to check. They don't want to check your knowledge because all answer is given in book. After becoming CA, you can read book and give the answer. Am I right or not? That you need to understand. Try to now build your what? What? Mental strength. For that, I always say, what you should do? What you should do? You know, concentration is required. So you should think about increasing the concentration. Can you live 3 hours without mobile? First question. Sometime try. Can you sit idle for 3 hours without speaking with two others? Can you study 3 hours without moving from one place? Just try. If you can do it, means you can concentrate. And if you can't do, means you need to do that. Study 3 hours at one place. Abhi to I am forcing you to study. Sit, huh? Why you are sitting in the classroom? You know, because you have paid fees and I am there. Otherwise, the virtual class you would have moved. Am I right or not? Yes or no? So this though you are forced to sit down. So when you are studying, can you sit for 3 hours? Because exam is also for how many hours? 3 hours. And that is 2 to 5 sleeping time after lunch. After lunch, what happened? So never sleep in this time 2 to 5. Never sleep. Your mind should be super active in this 2 to 5. So 2 to 5 should not be your sleeping time. Because if you make a habit to sleep at that point of time, your mind will not be able to concentrate in exam hall at that point of time. So never sleep in that time. Sleep in normal other time. Sleep entire day, but not in that 3 hours. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll meet next day with the next topic. We need to complete it. Till then, bye bye. Take care. Enjoy your remaining day. Bye bye. I will always say I will meet tomorrow. But Sunday, I will inform you already. I said before tomorrow is the first Sunday. I also want rest. You also take rest. Okay? Sunday, I am not taking. Okay? Sunday most probably will not be class, but I can take class. So when I am taking, please don't give any excuses. Sir, I am going outside. I am going here, where. Okay? Okay? No, only volume 1, volume 1. Volume 1 of India Saran's book, volume 1 of question bank. We started with volume 1. Volume 1 of India Saran's book, volume 1 of question bank. Okay? Volume of India Saran's book consists of volume 1 and volume 2 of question bank. Means 2 volume of question bank is 1 volume of India Saran's book. So once India Saran's book completed, means 2 volumes of question bank completed. Got this point?